Type a rare German surname into a mapping tool and one small district in the country lights up bright red. A few hundred people, one shaded county, and it looks like a pin dropped on your ancestor's front door. Now try the Miller name. About 1 German in 100 carries it, and the whole map glows an even useless orange. That name was a job, and every single village had one, so the map tells you nothing at all. Same tool, same data, two completely different stories, so what is that tool actually measuring underneath? Germany holds roughly 850,000 different surnames, far above any estimate made before these maps existed. Printed dictionaries had covered at most 70,000 of them, under 1/10 of the actual stock. That bigger count exists because somebody bought a phone book. One phone book. Every map you click comes from it. In 2005, researchers in Mainz bought a database of landline connections from the National Telephone Company. One purchase, 1 year, one country. Everything downstream of it inherits that date whether the tool admits it or not. 28 million telephone connections. In 2005, 92% of German households still had a landline. In 2005, 92% of German households still had one of those landlines plugged in. Today fewer than 60% do, which means this particular survey can never be run again ever. A landline is dying, and it is taking the only complete national name census with it. The atlas built on it runs to 6 volumes and by the project's own count, over 2,000 commented maps. The companion dictionary began in 2012 with a planned run of 24 years, finishing in 2035. A name needs at least 10 telephone entries to get in, which quietly deletes the rarest names of all. So the picture is real, detailed, and enormous. It is also a photograph of one single year. And years lie. Hold that thought, because before the map lies to you, it earns your trust completely. German surnames carry language up to 900 years old, sealed in like insects trapped in amber. Most were coined between the 12th and 15th centuries, from trades, fathers, farms, and rude nicknames, then frozen. The Smith name splits across spellings, and each spelling belongs to a region that once said it that way. The Tailor name is the Atlas team's own worked example. Across the south and center, one form dominates. Across the north, a completely different word for exactly the same job, and the switch happens on the line. That line is not a modern border. It follows dialect boundaries first recorded by asking school teachers what they said. Between 1876 and 1887, a postal survey reached local schools right across the empire. Teachers translated the same fixed standard sentences into their own local speech and posted the sheets back. About 50,000 questionnaires went out, 40 sentences each, and roughly 45,000 came back. The result was the first fine-grained dialect map of a European country, drawn entirely from handwriting. Lay the surname map over the dialect map and the borders sit almost exactly on top of each other. Around 85% of German surnames have stayed locally fixed for centuries. Hold on to that 85. That stability is why the map works at all. It is also what makes the exceptions so loud. In the north and northwest, permanent surnames arrived late, and they arrived by government order. Up there, a man's second name was simply his father's first name, renewed fresh every single generation. The atlas maps 3 forms of one idea, and each form dominates a different stretch of country. Same father, same naming habit, 3 different endings, and those endings stop dead at old administrative lines. Which tells you a clerk and not a family decided how your name would be spelled forever. A floating system only stopped when governments forced it. Schleswig ordered fixed surnames in 1771. A Napoleonic order of 1811 pushed the Northwest into fixed names it had never asked for. Prussia went further in March 1812. Jewish families were offered citizenship on condition they took a fixed surname. Denmark had to order it again in 1828, more than 50 years after the first attempt. Repeat decrees mean the earlier ones failed. People simply carried on ignoring them for decades afterwards. Only when civil registry offices took over in 1874 did the names finally lock into place. All of that survives on the 2005 map, readable, sharp, and very old. Now the failure. Draw modern German surname map and the eastern edge is the Oder River. Beyond it, nothing at all. That blank held German-speaking populations for centuries, and popular mapping tools plot only present-day borders. 5 provinces fall outside the frame completely, so any name coined there has no square left to fill. After 1945, roughly 12 million German speakers fled or were expelled from Central and Eastern Europe. That is not a footnote, it is one of the largest forced movements of people in European history. By 1950, official counts put about 8.1 million expellees inside West Germany alone, and about 4 million more in the East, most of them arriving with nothing at all except their names. The name survived the journey perfectly well. The map position did not survive it at all. A surname coined in a Silesian village now shows up smeared thinly across Bavaria, Lower Saxony, and Schleswig. No cluster, no pin, just an even wash that any mapping tool reads as meaningless background noise. The Mainz researchers say this openly. It is the atlas's known blind spot, not some hidden flaw. Which should make you suspicious of the bright clusters that do appear, because some of them are new. Populations moved long before that war, and in Germany coal moved them harder than anything else. By 1914, over 130,000 miners from the eastern provinces worked the Ruhr collieries. Estimates put 300,000 to 400,000 Polish speakers in the Rhine and Westphalia industrial belt. They came for wages, stayed for generations, and married into towns that had barely existed a lifetime earlier. Researchers combing Ruhr phone books in the 1990s counted more than 30,000 separate surnames of Polish origin. That is why Ruhr phone books are thick with Slavic surnames, and why the map burns red there. That cluster is a coal seam, it is not a homeland, and it is barely a century old. Go back further. On October 29, 1685, Brandenburg publicly invited French Calvinists to settle. About 20,000 accepted, planting French surnames across Brandenburg and Berlin, where no French had lived before. By 1700, something like a fifth of Berlin's population was of French descent. So a bright cluster can mean origin, a mine shaft, a royal invitation, or a refugee transit camp. The 2005 map cannot tell those four apart, because it only knows about today. To tell them apart, you need a second photograph of the country, taken before any of that moving started. There's one, and it comes from the worst imaginable source, the printed casualty lists of the First World War. 7.7 million name bearers, 460,000 distinct name types, the largest historical German name corpus. The soldiers average a birth year around 1890, one long generation before the first expulsion trains. And the lists record each man's birthplace, not his current address. That single detail changes everything. It covers the whole old empire, including every province that later dropped off the modern map entirely. A death notice is a terrible thing. As a datasty, it is an unmatched record of German birthplaces. Put the two side by side, 1890 on the left, 2005 on the right. One shows where a name was made, the other shows where its bearers happened to sleep tonight. The eastern clusters sit there in 1890 and vanish by 2005, pinned out westward. You're not comparing two maps. You're watching your own family being moved across a continent. Sometimes the geography does more than confirm history. Sometimes it kills a printed etymology stone dead. One surname sat in the reference books for decades with a Slavic origin, traced east to the Lusatian lands. Then somebody mapped it. Every bearer sat in Saarland in the southern Palatinate, hundreds of miles the wrong way. No eastern cluster at all. Not thin, not scattered, just completely absent from that whole region. The name is a German reshaping of a French given name. The dictionary had the wrong end of the country. Distribution beats derivation. When the meaning and the map disagree, trust the map and rebuild the meaning. That is the rule the whole project runs on, and it is the rule you should use yourself. Start with the spelling written on your documents, and then immediately stop trusting that spelling at all. Search every variant you can invent, because the clerk who wrote it down was guessing at a spoken dialect. Second, check both time slices, the telephone map for now, the casualty lists for 1890. If your cluster jumps between the two, you have found a migration, and the older map holds the answer. Third, ask what your cluster actually is, a coalfield, a dialect border, or resettlement district. Remember that Germany publishes no official surname statistics, so every figure here is an estimate from private data. That matters abroad too. Around 41 million Americans report German ancestry, the largest single reported ancestry. Departure records from Hamburg cover 1850 to 1934, apart from the war years, and name each emigrant's hometown. So here's the answer. Every German surname map is one phone book, 1 year, and one set of current borders. Your name survived 900 years of being written down wrongly, so where was it standing before somebody moved it?